Good afternoon and welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Weekly Show. I know we say weekly, it's our weekly podcast where we dive deep on some of these issues, but we are releasing quite a few this week, trying to catch back up with some of the issues that we missed here in the past few weeks. Today we are talking about the Civic Center issue that's been around Livingston Parish for quite a while now. Of course, this is all spurned by Director of the Convention and Visitors Bureau, Eric Edwards, coming to the Master Plan Committee to talk to them about the Civic Center. We'll talk about why he was there and why that was important in just a little bit. But it's important to remember the Civic Center has been a multi-year push. I mean, it started back in the 2000s when Eric Edwards took the job. It's just been very difficult to come up with the support and the funding for it because of all the other the things that are missing in Livingston Parish. One parish councilman said, well, how can we afford that if we can't even afford parish-wide animal control? Those are questions that are constantly asked. And when Mr. Edwards came before the Master Plan Committee, it was around November 5th of 2019. He brought up a price point of about $50 million. That would also come with a maintenance and operations fee of a per year deal, about $500,000 to $600,000 a year, when you're looking at about a 2 to 3 year honeymoon period where a lot of new artists and things of that nature would be able to come to Livingston Parish because they want to try the new venue, but then you got your work cut out for you trying to keep it full. Edwards would know because his entire life has been running centers like this, leading up to before he took the job in Livingston, he ran the Pete Maravich Assembly Center at LSU. So he was called to the Master Plan Committee to kind of discuss where he was in the process of the within the process of the Master Plan Committee, where he was within the process of the Civic Center. They kind of came together because the Master Plan Committee has been talking about infrastructure and roads a lot over their last 4 meetings, and they're trying to find out where Mr. Edwards was, thinking about putting a Civic Center, where he was interested in putting a Civic Center. Did he have land for a Civic Center? Those were some of the questions that came up as they try to come up with, or have come up with, a priority road list. And Edwards said that putting a Civic Center next to I-12 was paramount and probably the most important piece of the puzzle. They needed, that would be the CVB needs 30 to 100 acres, or the parish, whoever intends to take this project on, needs at least 30 acres to start, upwards of 100 acres to kind of make this work. When he was asked how much it would cost, he asked Jonathan Taylor, who is the assistant director of the CVB, how much he believed that the Civic Center in Lake Charles costed, and he said, well, about $40 million was the total that Jonathan threw out. And so Eric turned around and told the Master Plan Committee it cost about $50 million. So that's where that cost came from. And a lot of that is baked into trying to find where this land would be next to I-12. There is discussion of maybe extending Highway 449 passed through 190 all the way to the interstate and including an interstate exit. That would open up a lot of interstate real estate for development. But a lot of this is part of that economic corridor that the Master Plan Committee is pushing. It's a 1.5 mile zone that is not zoned yet, but we'll talk about that in a second, that is north and south of I-12, that was pushed in the original master plan in 2013, suggested to be the sort of gateway to Livingston Parish. So they wanted to run out and zone it, provide the infrastructure for heavy commercial, residential, and industrial development, and really try to pull people to that area near to I-12. Hence the expansion of 449 from where it intersects Highway 190 now all the way to the interstate. That would open up a ton of development on a new road. So they were trying to get Mr. Edwards to push for this Civic Center near to the interstate, of course, because that brings jobs, it brings development in that area. And, having that interstate real estate frontage also gives you the chance to market it. What he had envisioned, that would be Eric Edwards had envisioned, was a 5,000 seat with about 4 to 5 breakout rooms for different events and things like that. And the auditorium would seat about 5,000. With the growth in the parish, it was brought up during the meeting that perhaps you should look more at 7,500 to 10,000, and that's when he kind of got into where you're looking at $600,000 a year just to maintain it. It's probably a $50 million price tag, and then 4 to 6 breakout rooms is quite a bit. They're also looking at an equestrian center, an RV park, and then some other recreational type activities that could be kept in the area, ballparks and things of that nature. So that's sort of the scope of work that he was looking at. But the question always comes up. The support is there, especially if you're talking about concerts, graduations, keeping the graduations local, local shows, those kinds of things, and especially being able to host conventions and breakouts of that nature. There's support. There's just not any money for it. Now, one of the things that Edwards brought up, who is a native of Farmerville, you're looking at a population of 2,000 from Farmerville, 20,000 in Union Parish, which is roughly a north part of Louisiana. The Union Parish has a civic center. Now, it was supplied, as Eric Edwards brought up, by grant money from FEMA and HUD. So the Department of Housing and Urban Development, as well as the Federal Emergency Management Administration, they both have grant monies for things like that. Now, if FEMA gets involved, you suddenly have to turn the Civic Center into a first responder center. If you've got, if you use their money to do it. HUD, of course, is looking for housing and urban development, so they're looking to draw people to the area, draw new homes, draw new development, that kind of thing. According to Edwards, they should be able to toss in $15 million apiece, but it's finding that local match that's the problem, and it's finding that money that has been the problem, and it's been over a decade since he's begun this crusade, I guess you can say. Hadn't really been able to find the money for something that large, but he said he will continue to look for it. Edwards also said that he, really believes that land next to I-12 has to be the start. They're looking for land. They haven't found anything yet. They had inspected some property that was behind the Livingston Parish Fairgrounds. Unfortunately, that was going to require a servitude. There was going to be a lot of traffic going through. When you had events at the fairgrounds, that was going to be a problem. So he and they, being the Convention and Visitor Bureau, backed off that idea. So they're looking for something near I-12 to make this happen. Now, it was recently announced that the sheriff would be creating an $8 million, or trying to. He's working towards bonding out about $8 million to build a facility at his training area near Mount Walker, which would be the Woodside landfill, to try to provide for his deputies a few amenities. What he did say is that there will be breakout areas where they'll normally be teaching classes. However, these auditoriums can be used for graduations for smaller schools. That sort of brought up the question, is $50 million, that seems like a high number for a convention, or for a convention center, for a civic center, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of folks that are looking for maybe something a little different, maybe something a little cheaper, because those monies coming from FEMA and HUD would require a local match. And right now, the focus is on roads and those sorts of things. So hard to say where the Civic Center conversation goes from here. Edwards said that he has the support of a lot of local entities, including the parish itself, the chamber, the school board. All of those folks are behind Edwards and trying to find a place for a civic center to go, and trying to find a way to fund it. Edwards did say that maybe they could increase the hotel motel tax, which is currently what funds the Convention and Visitors Bureau. The logic there being that they believe that's outside folks coming into the parish to stay in the hotels, and they use that money to fund their operations, providing advertising for the parish, as well as local grant funding for parish events through the Convention and Visitors Bureau. They also are a major donor to the Livingston Economic Development Council, and of course sit on that board. So it'll be interesting to see how they try to find either that matching funding, or if they change in scale. But as of now, that is what the director of the Convention and Visitors Bureau, Eric Edwards, is after. $50 million facility, $500,000 to $600,000 a year, and looking for land and space to place that somewhere near Interstate 12, hopefully in that economic corridor for the master plan committee to kind of get behind it, where they're looking to develop infrastructure and increase commercial development and that kind of thing to bring people to Livingston Parish. Appreciate you joining us today to talk about the Civic Center. That is where the current crusade lands. It's going to be interesting to see where something ends up. Again, one of the things that Edward said was that he was talking with architects on maybe developing something small on 30 acres, trying to get 100, but starting with 30, developing something small with the intent of expanding as the popularity grew and as they got their things paid off and the finances under control. So where they go from here, it's anybody's guess. But we appreciate you again joining us to learn all about the Civic Center. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you joining us today one last time, and we will be coming at you again with some more juicy goodness, talking about some issue with disaster recovery law that Congressman Garrett Graves is trying to deal with currently in Congress, or currently at the House. It's a lot of Congress for you, but we will be coming back at you. If not Thursday, we will be with you on Black Friday to talk all about that. One last time, McHugh David here with the Livingston Parish News Weekly. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.